Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with a little bit of a Dragon's Maze update. The update is finally live here on MTGO. We still do not have the cards. It's going to be till Friday, and I'm going to be gone Friday and Saturday for a PTQ. So I thought I'd actually show you the deck that I'm going to be most likely running at the PTQ. This PTQ will be held in Salt Lake City, in West Valley to be specific, at my old stomping grounds of Epic Puzzles and Games. So if you are in the Utah area and would like to say hello, I will be there on Saturday. I believe it starts at 10 in the morning. Anyway, this is the list that I am so far going to be running. It's been testing well against the mid-range decks, and it's been testing well against any sort of control deck, and it just goes over the top other aggro decks. So I really think it's powerful in the format. The only thing that I am worried about a little bit is mono black, but I think this deck can take wins out of nowhere with mono black. I am very hurt by Bile Blight. It can be a pretty nasty 2-for-1 or even 3-for-1 a lot of times when I get those very explosive Burning Tree Emissary draws. But the deck has ways to come back from it. And right now with mono black turning into more of a white black, we're definitely prepared for the white black version a lot better than the mono black version. So one of the other matchups I am worried about a little bit is blue. Just mono blue devotion, but I do have some answers for that as well. And in testing, this deck has some tricks up its sleeve to just flat out win against mono blue. And I have included a little bit of a sideboard as well to kind of combat the mono blue. So anyway, here it is. Here I'll go down the list here of what I'm going to be running. So I have kind of the monsters in the sideboard. I have two Pelucranoses and 4 Stormbreath Dragons in the sideboard, and I also have a Pelucranos main board. As I only want one in the main board. It is really cool if you see one. It's not cool if you see multiple ones, because a lot of times it sits in your hand when you want to go in for the kill. These kind of cards are good against like mono black. What I do is side out a lot of early game and just side in late game. But anyway, I'll just go down the main deck right now. We're running 23 lands. 23 lands seems to be working the best because we do want to hit our 5 mana, and 23 will get us there when we want it to. And so it's going to be all creatures. It's going to be 31 creatures. I used to have like lightning strikes and magma jets in here, but they just didn't do much in the metagame right now, as the only thing I really wanted to kill has 4 toughness. So we have those in the sideboard to kill 4 toughness. And I do have these bloods, which a lot of times can do 5 damage and even 6 damage with Xenagos, who actually becomes active very easily in this deck. So anyway, at the 1-drop slot, we have Elvish Mystics and Experiment 1s. Both of these are such powerhouse 1-drops. If you drop an Experiment 1 first turn, it's probably going to be a 3-3 by turn 3 and a 4-4 by turn 4, most likely with the Fanatic of Xenagos. And if you drop an Elvish Mystic, then you're just setting up a very explosive second turn, because we have so many 3-drops. And then, so this deck has a lot of combinations. It's like Elvish Mystic going into a Domri, or Elvish Mystic into a Courser of Krufix, or Fanatic of Xenagos, or even a Boon Satyr isn't bad. And Boon Satyr is a card I think I'm toying around with the number. I really like this card, but it does die to the Drown in Sorrow, and I just don't want to get completely shut down by a Drown in Sorrow. I don't want a Drown in Sorrow to, I mean, Experiment 1 a lot of times will be able to dodge Drown in Sorrow by the time that they use it, and same with Sage. So the only thing that Drown in Sorrow can kill in my deck right now is really Elvish Mystics and Burning Trees. And like I said, a lot of times Experiment 1 sometimes will die to it, Sage will sometimes die to it, but a lot of times they'll be a 2-3 and a 3-3 respectively. And of course the Fanatic of Xenagos is going to be bigger, and as well as the Courser of Krufix. So Boon Satyr is kind of that little fragile 2 toughness spot, which also of course Magma Jet can take care of, and there's still a lot of Magma Jets running around. So anywho, at the 2-drop slot we have the Burning Tree Emissary and Sage. A lot of times what this deck does, you go first turn Experiment 1, second turn Sage, and then it evolves Experiment 1, but then third turn you can go Burning Tree Emissary, evolve the Sage, and then Fanatic of Xenagos, and then evolve the Sage again, and you have 2 counters on your Sage, which then can the following turn can easily cast for a Xenagos, and that is just a crazy draw. That's happened plenty of times. A lot of times I actually see like these Burning Tree hands with a Sage in hand, and you could go Burning Tree into Sage, but a lot of times I just wait for the Burning Tree the following turn just to get that counter on the Sage, because mana is, the more the merrier in this deck, but you don't have to have it, which is really cool. But so this runs like an RG Blitz, the good old RG Blitz with a Flint Boar back in the day, but it also can switch over to kind of a monsters feel, over the top type feel. So onto our 3-drops, which is Domri, I'm thinking 3 of is the right number. I might play 4 of. It depends. Again, I might take this Plukernos out main board, put it sideboard, or another card, maybe like a Sage. I'm not sure exactly how I want to do this, but 3 seems to be working out the best because I don't want to see 2 in my hand. Some decks you do want to see 2 in your hand because the first one's going to die, but a lot of times you don't want 2 of them in your hand. So, but you always want to see a Domri. So the 3 is statistically where I want to be to see Domri. And again, we got that the God draw. In my opinion, if I could fix a hand, I'd have a first turn Mystic and a second turn Domri. That is so powerful. Anyway, a cool combination I want to talk about is Courser of Crewfix and Domri. I've got this combination out quite a bit, and if Courser wasn't a 2/4, it's a little more aggressive, I'd probably play more of these, but man, oh man, is this such a powerful combo if you have a Domri and a Courser, because it shows you what's on top of your library, and if you haven't played a land, you can just play that land off the top, and then you can decide whether you want a +1 or use Domri's fight ability, because you definitely want to be using Domri each turn, and even if you have to just fight something that you don't really care about being out, but it's nice to kill, that's you -2 rather than +1, and so you completely avoid. And with this, with only 3 non-lands in this entire non-land non-creatures in this entire deck, basically if you have this combo out, you're gonna, unless you brick into 2 lands, you're gonna be able to +1 Domri and get a creature every turn, which is very powerful. So I love this combination. That's why I'm running 2 of these instead of a 4 of package of Boon Satyr. Now on to another card I have considered is Witchstalker. Witchstalker is very good against the mono black, and it's decent versus the Esper and just U-White control because it cannot be Azorius Charmed, it cannot be Detention Sphere. But I'm not too worried about that matchup to begin with. I am worried about mono black, but Witchstalker I don't think quite makes the cut. I think my 3-drop is way too loaded to begin with. And the one thing that I have considered with Witchstalker, and I might end up putting some of these in the sideboard again, I just don't know. I do have some slots that are kind of iffy in my sideboard, is Witchstalker works great with this Flesh Blood Armed and Dangerous combo, because one of the things with Armed and Dangerous and Flesh Blood is it's sorcery speed, so it's kind of risky that you go Armed and Dangerous and then attack in. And then what's so good about Armed Dangerous, you got Gore-Clan Rampager, so that's 10 damage between the 10 trampling damage between Gore-Clan Rampager and Arm that you throw on a creature. And if that's on a Witchstalker, then they can't respond to that. I mean, they can't kill your hexproof guy, and you're more than likely going to have a 8/8 trampling double strike creature out. And that's one of the reasons why I have considered Witchstalker, but I just don't think it's better than Boon Satyr, because in this deck a lot of times you are casting the Boon Satyr for its bestow. If you're bestowing a Fanatic of Xenagos and you've got like a Xenagos out, it's huge because your Xenagos is active. If you have one other permanent out, it will be active, and you'll have usually an 8 power Fanatic of Xenagos, which is trample, which is huge, but then it becomes a 16, and then with like blood, it's so easy to finish off your opponents. I've won so many games out of nowhere because this Armed and Dangerous and Flesh and Blood. I almost want to go up more of these, but again, you don't want to be loaded with these type of cards in your hand. And I don't know, the amount of games these cards have won though, is just staggering. But I know if I were to increase my amount of both Armed and Dangerous and Flesh and Bloods, then the amount of games I lose from having too many spells and not enough creatures, I think would negate the whole purpose of putting him in there. So anyway, yeah. So loving the Fanatic of Xenagos, so good. The trample is so important. I think that's what puts it over the top of Loxodon Spider and makes me want to go into red instead of into white. I mean, white does have some cool 3-drops to go Elvish Mystic into turn 3, but a lot of those are double white, like Bramaz and the Ijani. And so therefore, I like Domri so much and Burning Tree so much and Fanatic Xenagos so much, I think it's worth it to go into red. And plus this Gore-Clan Rampager just wins so many games as well. Again, I'm liking the one of Polukranos because Polukranos does pair really well as Xenagos, as that's a 10/10, and then Gore-Clan Rampager can give it trample, which is no problem. Or what's really cool is then you can blood after you've attacked with Polukranos, or even if you have to monsters it, which is very able to act like monsters in this deck to have the Burning Tree, Nykthos draw. I mean, you do have the one of Nykthos, Shrine of Nyx to kind of throw your opponents off, and it's nice as a one of. I don't like it as a multiple because we aren't a monster strategy. We are just a RG aggro strategy. So yeah, it's those draws do happen though. So I'm liking the one of Polukranos. Like I said, I've got more sideboard that I can bring in. and whatnot. And then the 2 of Xenagos seems to be working out great because you never want to see 2 of these, but you do want to see these in a lot of your games because it is very powerful. It's even powerful. Even your late game stuff is, even like a Burning Tremissary is a 4/4 haster, which is very, very powerful. Xenagos. I think Xenagos is very underrated. He's very easy to get online in this deck, and yeah, a lot of people, I think, have just looked over Xenagos of how powerful he really is. So anyway, onto the sideboard. Again, the sideboard is it's subject to change. I'm going to do a ton of play testing today against a whole slew of decks, and I've got 2 Unravel the Aether. They're basically in here for Thassa and for Biden of Thassa and Whip of Erebos, mainly Whip of Erebos and Underworld Connections is what Unravel the Aether is in. It's nice against Detention Spheres, but I don't know if I'd bring it in versus U-White variants, as killing their Detention Spheres a lot of times isn't that big of a deal because they're grabbing like an early Fanatic of Xenagos or something that easily could be taken care of with creature. And the only permanents I'd really care about getting off of the Detention Sphere would be the Domri and the Xenagos, and we're running pretty low those anyway. So Unravel the Aether is mainly in here for the mono black list, as it does so much work versus mono black. And then we have 4 Stormbreath Dragons. Stormbreath Dragons are mainly in here for any sort of white matchup, but mainly black-white control, as Stormbreath Dragon cannot be or can block Blood Barons all day long, or cannot be blocked by Blood Barons. And then, I mean, it can block Obstinate all day long as well if you have to go in defensive mode. But usually it's a nice aggressive creature that has protection from white and can get in there for that last bit of damage. So that's why there's 4 of them in the sideboard. Again, I'm not too sure about if I want to run all 4. There's definitely sideboard slots that I can mess around with like more Armed and Dangerous if they're that good, and Witch Stalkers if they're that good as well. I mean, I thought about kind of going like a hexproof route without the enchantments route, just trying to get there with Gore-Clan Rampager and Arms. But well, I'll have to wait and see. I'll definitely playtest a lot more decks after this PTQ. I'm kind of disappointed this PTQs right now because I do most of my playtesting on Magic Online, as the competition there is a lot better than my local metagame. And then I'm going to be testing a hexproof type deck with Armed and Dangerous and Gore-Clan Rampagers, and not even care about going the R routes. I probably won't even, I won't even put white in the deck. It's just going to be a green, just a green and red, and use most of the hexproofers like the Glade Clever Elf and the Witch Stalker and whatnot. So anywho, I think that's pretty much covered everything. Again, the Burning Earth is an iffy pick. Mistcutter's in here for mono blue, just a one of, so I can have that draw where it looks like I'm going to lose, and I can go Mistcutter Hydra into Armed and Dangerous for the win with maybe Xenagos out, and it's huge. You know, you end up doing like 12 damage to the face that they can't do anything about. That is my plan anyway. And Burning Earth though is in there for the UWR and Esper. So UWR is getting a little bit popular. It's made some waves recently, and they do have answers to it. They do have Wear Tear, but Burning Earth's still fine against it. There's even some decks that are worth. There's a lot of like 3-color decks running around that use very few non-basic lands, if any. And Burning Earth against a lot of those can just completely shut them down. So I thought I'd just put it in. If I'm running red and I'm running mostly basic lands, I thought Burning Earth would be a great inclusion. And again, though, I don't know if it needs to be in my 15 sideboard. So, well, we'll have to wait and see. More playtesting, of course. But anyway, let me know what you think about this deck. This video will only be up for maybe a day or two before I am actually to the PTQ. But your suggestions are more than welcome. Again, this isn't the roguiest of decks. I mean, it's very similar to RG Monsters, but I mean, this is kind of my own little brew of it, little combinations I found that have worked well for me. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.